Aliens confused. During camouflage test, human becomes invisible using mud and bushes. According to YouTube analytics, 98% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, Commander Zyl'ax's stealth detection grid, capable of tracking invisible warships across 3 star systems, just lost a human standing in plain sight 20 meters away. "Impossible!" Zyl'ax hissed, his 3-fingered hands dancing across the holographic control panel. "Run full diagnostics, now." "Systems are operational, Commander," his lead technician reported, mandibles clicking nervously. "All detection arrays functioning at peak efficiency, thermal scanners online, motion tracking active, quantum signature detection engaged, but the human, he's just gone." Zyl'ax's spine ridges flared in agitation. Behind him, military observers from 12 different species murmured in confusion and barely concealed alarm. They'd traveled from across the galaxy to witness the unveiling of the Confederation's new detection technology. 50 billion credits of cutting-edge sensor arrays that could supposedly track a single molecule of exhaust across a solar system. The human civilian consultant they'd brought in for baseline testing had just made it all worthless. "Marcus Johnson, can you hear me?" Zyl'ax spoke into the facility-wide communicator, trying to keep his voice steady. This was supposed to be a simple demonstration. Show the human standing in the test field, let the sensors track him. Prove the system worked on even the most basic biological signatures. Instead, his career was evaporating in real time. "Yeah, I can hear you fine," came Marcus's voice from the speakers, cheerful, utterly unconcerned. But Zyl'ax's visual display showed nothing. The thermal imaging showed a slightly warm mud patch. The motion sensors remained silent. Even the experimental quantum signature detector was registering environmental debris. "Where are you?" Zyl'ax demanded. Where you told me to stand, right in the middle of the field, next to that rock formation. You guys want me to move around, or just stay put?" A Valkyrian admiral in the observation deck stood abruptly. "This is a malfunction. It must be. Nothing organic can defeat these sensors." "Unless," a Threen intelligence officer said quietly, her crystalline structure flickering with concern, "the human has access to technology we don't know about. Unknown countermeasures. If Earth has developed stealth capabilities this sophisticated—" "Negative," Zyl'ax cut in, pulling up Marcus's file with shaking hands. "Subject is a civilian. Wildlife photographer, no military background, security clearance, minimal. He was hired as a baseline biological target for our demonstration." He stared at the file photo. A smiling human male with mud on his face, holding a camera surrounded by Earth vegetation. His expertise is in photographing animals in natural habitats. "Then explain," the Valkyrian admiral said, pointing at the empty display, "how a civilian is currently invisible to 12 different detection methodologies simultaneously." Zyl'ax couldn't. His detection grid was the pinnacle of Confederation military technology. It had taken 3 decades and input from 50 different species to develop. The algorithms could differentiate between a krill stealth fighter and cosmic background radiation. They could track heat signatures through plasma storms. They could detect the quantum displacement of a single atom. They could not find the human covered in mud. "Marcus," Zyl'ax said, forcing calm into his voice, "what exactly are you doing right now?" "Standing here covered in dirt," Marcus replied, confusion evident in his tone. "Like you asked. You said you wanted to test if your sensors could track a human in the test environment. So I did what we do when we're hunting back home, covered myself in local mud, grabbed some vegetation to break up my outline, and stood still. Is something wrong? Your sensors not working?" "They're working perfectly," Vexia interjected, her translator struggling with her species' equivalent of hysterical laughter. The technical director had joined Zyl'ax at the control panel, her sensory tendrils twitching in patterns that indicated approaching cognitive collapse. "Every system shows optimal function. Calibration is exact," the The sensors are detecting everything in that field. Soil composition, atmospheric pressure, wind speed, individual pollen grains, but they cannot detect a 70-kilogram human standing in plain sight. Huh, Marcus said. That's weird. I mean, I'm not exactly hiding well. My daughter's school play has better spotlights than this place. I can literally see you guys through the observation window. Zyl'ax's primary heart skipped a beat. He looked up at the polarized observation window that should have been one-way opaque. You can see us? Well, yeah, the window's just tinted, not mirrored, and you've got all those displays lit up behind you. Basic silhouette identification. Marcus paused. Should I come back inside? You all sound stressed. No, Zyl'ax and Vexia said simultaneously. Stay exactly where you are, Zyl'ax continued. We need to understand what's happening. In the observation deck, chaos was brewing. The military observers had split into factions, some demanding to examine the equipment, others frantically messaging their home governments, a few just staring at the empty display in existential horror. A Corvan general, his carapace darkening with anger, approached Zyl'ax. Commander, our entire defensive doctrine is based on detection superiority. Our borders, our fleets, our installations, all protected by sensor networks similar to this one. If humans can defeat them using mud and plants... We don't know that's what's happening, Zyl'ax interrupted, though his conviction was crumbling. This could be an equipment malfunction specific to this facility or... Your systems are working, Vexia said flatly, scrolling through diagnostic data. I've run every test protocol twice. The sensors are performing exactly as designed. They're detecting everything they should detect. She looked up, her sensory tendrils drooping in defeat. They're just not detecting the human. Because according to our technology, there is no human in that field. But we can hear him, the Corvan general said. His communicator badge is registering, Vexia confirmed. But the badge reads as a standalone device. No biosignature attached. As far as our sensors are concerned, there's a communications device floating in the middle of the field, surrounded by mud and vegetation, with no operator present. This is getting weirder by the minute, Marcus's voice came through the speakers. Do you want me to jump around or something? Would that help? Please remain still, Zyl'ax said, then turned to his technical team. Activate backup detection array, full spectrum analysis. If he's using some kind of dampening field... Backup array active, a technician reported. Results identical. No human biosignature detected. Zyl'ax felt his career dying with each negative report. The military observers were already composing their assessments. 50 billion credits, 3 decades of development, defeated by mud. Marcus, he said carefully, I need you to be completely honest. Are you using any technology, any devices, anything that might interfere with our sensors? Like what? A cloaking device? Marcus actually laughed. Man, I wish. No, I've got my clothes, my boots, the communicator badge you gave me, and a whole lot of mud. That's it. The mud, Vexia said suddenly. Could the mud be masking his heat signature? Thermal imaging should penetrate the mud layer, a technician responded. Even if it's acting as crude insulation, we'd still detect the heat differential. We'd see a human-shaped warm spot. Unless he's thermoregulating to match the ambient temperature, the Threen intelligence officer suggested. Humans can't thermoregulate that precisely, Dr. Camouflage said, appearing beside Zyl'ax. The xenobiologist had been summoned the moment the anomaly began. Their internal temperature regulation is actually quite poor compared to most species. They maintain a constant temperature regardless of environment. If anything, they should be easier to detect thermally, not harder. Then how? Zyl'ax began. I don't know, Camouflage admitted, but I recommend we bring the human back inside and examine exactly what he's done to himself. No, Vexia said sharply. We need to test this further. If this is a reproducible technique, if any human can do this, we need to understand the full scope. She activated her communicator. Marcus, we're going to activate additional sensor systems. Please continue doing exactly what you're doing. Sure thing. Getting kinda cold, standing still like this, but I can manage for a bit. Zyl'ax watched as Vexia brought online systems that were supposed to be foolproof. Motion sensors calibrated to detect heartbeats and breathing. Audio tracking that could isolate a whisper in a hurricane. Olfactory sensors designed to track prey species across continents. All of them failed. The motion sensors detected wind moving through vegetation. The audio tracking picked up ambient environmental sounds. The olfactory sensors identified local soil composition, plant matter, and trace atmospheric chemicals. None of them found the human. This is a security nightmare, the Velcarian admiral said, his voice hollow. If humans can do this, casually, with readily available materials, every installation in the Confederation is vulnerable. We need to contact High Command, the Corvan general added, immediately, before word of this spreads. Too late, the Threne officer noted, gesturing at the other observers, many of whom were still transmitting reports to their governments. By now, every major military in the galaxy knows that a human civilian defeated our best detection technology using mud. Zyl'ax felt his spine ridges droop. She was right. This wasn't just a failed demonstration. This was a galactic crisis speed-running its way through military intelligence channels. Within hours, strategic planners on 100 worlds would be reassessing their defensive postures, wondering how many other, primitive human capabilities could defeat their advanced technology. Marcus, Zyl'ax said, his voice carrying the weight of his imploding career, would you be willing to come back inside and explain your technique? Oh, sure, Marcus replied. Should I clean off first or? No, show us exactly what you've done. There was a pause. Then, okay, I'm walking toward the entry point now. Zyl'ax watched the displays. Nothing. No motion detected. No heat signature moving. No footsteps registered. The entry door opened. Nothing entered. According to the sensors. Then Marcus's voice, much closer now, carrying into the observation deck. Okay, so this is going to sound really basic, but... Zyl'ax turned. There was nothing there. The doorway was empty, just air and the faint scent of Earth. But the thing about visual detection, whether it's eyes or cameras or sensors, is they're all looking for patterns, Marcus's disembodied voice continued. Familiar shapes. Specific contrasts. The human form is really distinctive, right? 2 arms, 2 legs, upright posture. Our sensors, our brains, are wired to recognize that shape instantly. Where are you? Kel'Thas demanded, his sensor stalks extended, scanning frantically. Right in front of you, about 3 meters away. There was a rustling sound. So what I did was break up that distinctive shape. Humans have been doing this for tens of thousands of years, probably longer. You cover yourself in mud first. That masks your scent and makes your skin tone match the environment. But the mud shouldn't defeat thermal imaging, Vexia protested to the empty air. It doesn't, exactly. But mud is wet, and wet things evaporate. That evaporative cooling brings the surface temperature down closer to ambient. And then, more rustling, you attach vegetation, local plants, because they're the right color and texture for the environment. This breaks up your outline. Sensors see a bunch of plants and mud, maybe moving a little in the wind. They don't see a person. That's impossible, Zyl'ax said. Our algorithms specifically account for camouflage. We've tested against every known stealth technology. Sure, stealth technology, Marcus agreed. His voice was definitely coming from right in front of them, but there was nothing there except a vaguely human-shaped cluster of mud and foliage. But this isn't stealth tech, it's the opposite. I'm not hiding my signature, I'm just making my signature look like not a human. Your sensors are seeing exactly what's there. They're just interpreting it as background. Watch. The mud and plant formation moved slightly. Every sensor in the room remained silent. Zyl'ax felt something fundamental break in his understanding of the universe. His species had spent millennia developing technology to extend their senses beyond natural limitations. They'd created sensors that could see across the electromagnetic spectrum, detect quantum fluctuations, analyze chemical compositions from light years away. They'd made themselves masters of detection. And a human with mud on his face had just walked through all of it by convincing their technology he was a shrub. "You're saying," Vexia said slowly, "that this is a known technique? Used commonly by humans?" "Oh yeah. I mean, militaries use it. Hunters use it. My 8-year-old learned basic camouflage at summer camp last year. It's pretty standard stuff." Marcus, or the thing that sounded like Marcus, shifted slightly. "Although I gotta say, usually we worry about hiding from other humans, not from sensors worth more than my house." "Your offspring learn this as children," Kael'thas said faintly, "for recreation." "Well, yeah. Hide and seek, camouflage games, that kind of thing. Kids think it's fun, plus it teaches patience, observation skills, environmental awareness." Marcus trailed off. "Why are you all looking at me like that?" "Wait, you can't see me. Why does it sound like you're all staring at me?" "Because we are," Zyl'ax said, staring at what his brain insisted was just vegetation, even as his ears told him a human stood right there. "We are all attempting to locate you visually, and we cannot. Dr. Kael'thas, you're a xenobiologist. Can your species see him?" Kael'thas's sensor stalks rotated slowly, scanning the area where Marcus's voice originated. "No, my visual processing identifies vegetation and mud, no biological entity present." "Threen?" Zyl'ax asked. The crystalline intelligence officer flickered through several colors. "Negative. My electromagnetic perception reads organic matter, but no organized life form signature." "Velcarian." "I see. Nothing but plants," the Admiral admitted. Zyl'ax turned to address the entire observation deck. "Can anyone see the human?" Silence. 12 different species, with 12 different types of visual processing, all staring at the same spot, all seeing nothing but mud and bushes. "Okay, this is getting weird," Marcus said. "Should I take some of this off?" "Yes," Zyl'ax said immediately. "Please." There was movement in the vegetation. A hand appeared, human, definitely human, covered in mud but clearly a hand. It pulled away some of the foliage attached to what had appeared to be a bush. Sensors remained silent. More vegetation came away. The mud-covered form became slightly more human-shaped. But it wasn't until Marcus wiped mud from his face that the sensors suddenly registered his presence. "Alert!" the detection system announced. "Biosignature detected. Human. Marcus Johnson verified." "There you are!" Vexia exclaimed, even though Marcus had been in the same position the entire time. Marcus grinned, mud still caking most of his body. "Here I am, same place I've been standing for the last 20 minutes. Zyl'ax looked at his sensors. They now showed Marcus clearly. Heat signature, motion tracking, biosignature, all registering normally. As if the human had simply materialized from nothing. As if the last 20 minutes of sensor failure had been a shared hallucination. Except they had recordings, data logs, proof that their 50 billion credit detection system had been defeated by mud and patience. "I don't understand," the Corvin general said. "You removed some vegetation and wiped your face. Why can we see you now?" "Because I broke the pattern," Marcus explained, wiping more mud off his arms. "Once your eyes, or sensors, whatever, can identify a human face or a human body shape, they lock onto it. But when everything's broken up and disguised, they just skip right over it. It's not that I was invisible. You just weren't recognizing what you were seeing." "Pattern disruption," Vexia murmured, her tendrils twitching rapidly as she processed the implications. "Not signature masking, not energy dampening, just visual confusion." "Basically, yeah." Marcus looked down at himself. "Although I gotta say, I've never tried this against alien sensors before. Wasn't sure it would work. Back home, we just use it to hide from deer and elk. They don't have motion sensors either, but they're really good at spotting human shapes. So you cover up the human shape, move slowly, and boom, you're part of the landscape. Persistence hunting, Kalthos said suddenly. I've read about this. Human evolutionary adaptation. Your species pursued prey over long distances using endurance rather than speed. You had to get close without being detected. Sure, Marcus agreed. Our ancestors did this for tens of thousands of years, maybe longer. We're not as fast as most predators, so we had to be sneaky. And patient. Really patient. Zyl'ax's mind raced through the implications. Humans had evolved as pursuit predators. They'd spent their entire evolutionary history learning to be invisible to prey animals, animals that had evolved specifically to detect predators. And they'd gotten so good at it that they could still do it, casually, tens of thousands of years after developing civilization. Good enough to defeat sensors designed to track starships. We need to test this further, Zyl'ax said, trying to salvage something from this disaster. Marcus, would you be willing to demonstrate the technique again? Show us the full process? I mean, sure, but I'm going to need more mud. This stuff's drying out. Marcus looked around the observation deck, seeming to notice the crowd for the first time. Are all these people here for this test? That's a lot of brass for what I thought was a routine baseline check. This was supposed to be a demonstration of our new detection capabilities, the Valkyrian admiral said, his tone flat. For military observers from across the Confederation. Instead, we have demonstrated that a human civilian can defeat our best technology using materials found in any terrestrial environment. Oh, Marcus grimaced. Sorry? I mean, I wasn't trying to break anything. You asked me to be a test subject, so I just did what seemed natural. Natural, Vexia repeated. This is natural to you. Well, I mean, I've been doing wildlife photography for 15 years. You don't get good shots of elk by stomping through the forest in bright colors. You blend in, move slowly, wait for hours. It's not complicated, just takes practice and patience. 15 years of practice, Zyl'ax said, and human children learn basics of this technique recreationally. Some do, yeah. Summer camps, scout troops, outdoor education programs. Not everyone's into it, but it's not exactly rare knowledge. Marcus paused. Why? Is this a problem? Is this a problem? The Corvan general repeated, his carapace flushing through several colors that indicated extreme stress. Human, your species has just demonstrated the ability to bypass Confederation military sensor networks using mud. Every defensive installation, every secure facility, every protected border relies on sensors like these. And you're saying this is common knowledge among your people? Marcus's eyes widened. Oh, wow. Yeah, I can see how that would be. Yeah, that's a problem. He looked down at his mud-covered body. Although, I mean, this doesn't work against everything, right? Like, if you had guards actually watching, they'd see someone covered in mud and go, that's suspicious. And this only really works if the environment has the right materials. Can't exactly do this in space or on a metal station. But on any terrestrial installation, the Threen officer said, in any natural environment, any human with access to local mud and vegetation could theoretically penetrate our security. Theoretically, yeah. I mean, you'd need time to prepare, and you'd have to move slowly, and you'd need to understand the environment. Marcus trailed off, looking uncomfortable. This is turning into a whole thing, isn't it? This is turning into the biggest security review in Confederation history, Zyl'ax confirmed. We need to understand the full capabilities and limitations of this technique. Marcus, I'm going to need you to explain everything, from the beginning, every detail. Marcus sighed, mud flaking off his face. Okay, but can I at least get cleaned up first? This stuff itches when it dries. No, Vexia said quickly. We need to document exactly what you've applied and how. Full analysis of materials, application patterns, coverage density, everything. You're going to analyze my mud. We're going to analyze everything, Zyl'ax confirmed. And then you're going to demonstrate the technique again, step by step, while we record every detail and test additional sensor arrays. And then, the Velcarian admiral added, you're going to explain any other common knowledge your species possesses that might defeat our technology. Marcus looked around at the gathered military leadership, all staring at him with various expressions of alarm and fascination. So, I'm guessing my day rate just went up? Considerably, Zyl'ax confirmed, assuming you're willing to work as a consultant on this. Oh, I'm willing, but I'm going to need dental coverage too. Marcus grinned, apparently finding the situation amusing despite the palpable tension in the room. And maybe hazard pay. You guys look stressed enough that I'm worried about your health. Focus, Vexia commanded. Explain the technique. Start with material selection. Marcus shrugged, sending small clouds of dried mud into the air. Okay, so first you want to find mud with good adhesion. Clay content helps. Too sandy and it won't stick. Too wet and it'll run off. You're looking for something with a consistency like, I don't know how to describe it in your terms, like thick paste. Show us, Camouflage said, extending a recording device. We'll analyze samples. For the next hour, Marcus walked them through the entire process. He explained how to assess mud composition by feel, how to select vegetation that matched the environment, how to attach plant material so it moved naturally with your body, how to position yourself relative to light sources and sight lines, how to control your breathing and minimize movement. The military observers took notes like their careers depended on it, which, Zyl'ax reflected, they probably did. The key thing, Marcus emphasized as he demonstrated on a volunteer technician who'd agreed to be covered in mud, is understanding what your observer is looking for. Prey animals look for predator shapes, big bodies, forward-facing eyes, that kind of thing, so you break up those shapes. Sensors look for heat, motion, specific signatures, so you mask or diffuse those signatures using natural materials that the sensors are programmed to ignore. Our sensors aren't programmed to ignore vegetation, Vexia protested. No, but they're programmed to recognize vegetation as background, right? As not a threat? So when you make yourself look like vegetation, you become not a threat, background, something to filter out rather than focus on. Marcus stepped back from the now mud-covered technician. There, now try to find him with your sensors. Zyl'ax activated the detection grid. Nothing. The technician had vanished from the sensors just as completely as Marcus had. Reproducible, Vexia said, her voice hollow. The technique is reproducible. Any human with basic training could do this. Any person with basic training, Marcus corrected. I mean, I don't know about all your species' biology, but if you can cover yourself in mud and stay still, you can probably do this too. No, Camouflage said, studying his own scans of the disguised technician. Most species lack the patience. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. You have unusual capacity for remaining motionless for extended periods. Most predator species are ambush or pursuit hunters. They lack the temperamental adaptation for this type of concealment. Huh, Marcus said. Never thought about that. I mean, yeah, sitting in a blind for 6 hours waiting for a photo opportunity is pretty normal for me. Gets boring, but you learn to deal with it. 6 hours, the Corvan general repeated. You can remain still and concealed for 6 hours. Sure, longer if I have to. I've done overnight stakes for nocturnal animals. You just wait. Think about stuff. Plan your shots. Whatever. The observation deck had gone very quiet. Commander, the Velcarian admiral said, I need to contact my fleet immediately. This has significant strategic implications. Agreed, said the Threen officer. Our border security protocols will need complete revision. Every defensive installation in the Confederation, the Corvan general added, just became potentially vulnerable to human infiltration. Marcus held up his hands, looking alarmed. Whoa, hold on. I wasn't trying to start an intergalactic incident. This is just hunting technique. We use it on Earth to photograph animals, not to infiltrate military bases. But you could, Zyl'ax said quietly. That's the point. You could. Any human with your training could potentially bypass our security. And according to you, many humans have this training. Well, yeah, but most of them use it for hunting or wildlife observation, not for whatever you're worried about. Marcus looked around at the assembled military leadership. You guys know humans aren't planning to invade you, right? We're mostly just trying to figure out how to fit in with the galactic community. We know, Vexia assured him, but our concern isn't human intent, it's human capability. We design our security based on assumed limitations. If those limitations don't apply to humans, then we need new security protocols, Zyl'ax finished. Ones that account for human capabilities, which means we need to understand all of your capabilities. Marcus sighed. Okay, but I'm telling you, most of our capabilities are just things we evolved to do because we were kind of terrible at being predators otherwise. We're not fast, we're not strong, we don't have claws or fangs, so we learn to be sneaky and stubborn. Sneaky and stubborn enough to defeat 50 billion credits worth of detection technology, Vexia noted. I mean, when you put it that way, it sounds impressive. Marcus grinned. My wife's not going to believe this. Honey, I broke the galaxy's military security using mud from their landscaping. Despite the crisis atmosphere, several observers made sounds that might have been laughter. The absurdity of the situation was apparently universal. All right, Zyl'ax said, pulling himself together. Here's what we're going to do. Marcus, you're now officially a high-level consultant to Confederation security. Your job is to teach us everything about human camouflage techniques, limitations, and counters. We need to know how to defend against this. And how to use it, the Velcarian admiral added. And how to use it, Zyl'ax agreed. We need training protocols, detection countermeasures, and revised security procedures. We need this information distributed to every major installation in the Confederation. That's a lot, Marcus said. I mean, I can do it, but that's going to take time. And I've got commitments back on Earth. My kid's got a soccer game next week, and my wife will kill me if I miss another one. We'll accommodate your schedule, Zyl'ax assured him, and pay you accordingly. Vexia, draw up a consultant contract, top-tier rates plus benefits. Including dental, Marcus reminded him. Including dental, Zyl'ax confirmed, wondering how this had become his life. This morning he'd been the proud commander of the most advanced detection facility in the Confederation. Now he was negotiating dental coverage with a human who'd destroyed his entire career trajectory using mud. Cool. Marcus looked down at himself. So can I shower now? Because this stuff is really starting to itch. After we finish sample collection and documentation, Vexia said firmly, we need complete data. Of course you do. Marcus resigned himself to continued discomfort. You know what? While you're collecting samples, I might as well tell you about ghillie suits. Those are basically professional-grade camouflage systems, way more effective than this mud thing. The observation deck went silent again. There's a more effective version? The Corvan general asked faintly. Oh yeah. Ghillie suits are amazing. They're these whole-body outfits covered in strips of cloth or natural materials that blend with the environment. Snipers use them. Wildlife photographers use them. You can lie down in grass and basically disappear. Completely. I've got one at home for when I'm photographing prairie animals. You have a device that makes you completely invisible to visual detection, Zyl'ax said, and you just keep it at home. For photography. Well, yeah. They're not cheap, but they're not exactly classified military secrets either. You can buy them online. Lots of companies make them. Marcus paused. Is that a problem too? Everything about your species is a problem, Vexia muttered, frantically taking notes. We'll need details on these ghillie suits, Zyl'ax said. Construction, materials, effectiveness, everything. Sure. And I guess I should mention face paint too. That's another common technique. Urban camouflage patterns, snow camouflage, desert camouflage. Oh, and there's this thing called a duck blind that hunters use. Please stop, the Velcarian admiral said. You're describing an entire doctrine of stealth warfare that your species developed for recreational hunting. Pretty much, yeah. Marcus seemed genuinely puzzled by their distress. I mean, this is all just stuff people figured out because we wanted to get close to animals without scaring them. It's not like we were planning galactic infiltration campaigns. But you could, the Threen officer said. That's what you keep not understanding. You could. Your species has, through evolutionary pressure and cultural development, created techniques that can defeat our best detection technology. And you did it without even trying to defeat our technology. You did it to photograph elk. When you put it that way, Marcus admitted, it does sound kinda scary from your perspective. Kind of scary, Zyl'ax repeated. Marcus, you've just upended galactic security doctrine. Every military in the Confederation is going to have to completely revise their defensive strategies. Billions, maybe trillions of credits in sensor technology are now potentially obsolete or need major upgrades. Training programs will need to be rewritten. Installation designs will need to be reconsidered. This is the biggest strategic shift since the development of faster-than-light travel. Because I stood still covered in mud, Marcus said. Because you stood still covered in mud, Zyl'ax confirmed. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then, my wife is never going to believe this. Document it thoroughly, Vexia advised. You're making history. Also, you're about to become one of the highest-paid consultants in the galaxy. That's good, Marcus said, because my daughter's going to need braces soon, and those are expensive. Somehow that broke the tension. Several observers made amused sounds. Even Zyl'ax felt his spine ridges relax slightly. There was something absurd and humanizing about the galaxy's newest security threat, worrying about orthodontic expenses. All right, Zyl'ax said. Let's proceed systematically. Vexia, continue documentation. Kael'thas, I need a full biological analysis of human sensory processing and patience capacity. Military observers, please compile preliminary reports for your governments, but emphasize that we're developing countermeasures and protocols. And Marcus, he looked at the mud-covered human who'd accidentally caused a galactic security crisis. Get cleaned up, then we're going to need you to teach us everything you know. Everything I know about camouflage is going to take more than an afternoon, Marcus warned. I mean, I can cover the basics, but there are people who know way more than me. Military instructors, professional hunters, survival experts. You might want to bring in a whole team from Earth. We will, Zyl'ax assured him, but right now, you're all we have. So you're going to be very busy for the foreseeable future. Marcus looked at the assembled military leaders, the advanced technology, the crisis atmosphere. Then he looked down at his mud-covered body. You know what, he said. I came here thinking I was going to stand in a field for an hour and make some easy money. Instead, I accidentally broke the galaxy's military infrastructure and got hired to fix it. My career counselor in high school did not prepare me for this scenario. None of our training prepared us for humans, Vexia said dryly. We're all figuring this out together. Great, mutual confusion. That's a solid foundation for galactic security. Marcus grinned. All right, let's do this. But I'm serious about that shower, and then coffee. Really good coffee. If I'm going to revolutionize your military doctrine, I'm going to need caffeine. We'll provide the best coffee in the Confederation, Zyl'ax promised. I'll be the judge of that, Marcus said. Fair warning, humans are really particular about coffee. Of course you are, Zyl'ax muttered. 3 hours later, after extensive sample collection, documentation, and a thorough shower, Marcus stood in a Confederation military briefing room, facing a holographic projection of the High Command Security Council. 20 species military leaders watched him with expressions ranging from curiosity to alarm. Let me see if I understand correctly, a counselor said, her translation matrix conveying something like incredulous horror. A human civilian defeated our primary detection systems using naturally occurring materials and techniques taught to human children as recreation. That's pretty much it, yeah, Marcus confirmed.